Dealing with the White House is like dealing with a bowl of Jell-O. I'm not going to get into the partisan sniping that we heard earlier.
It is hard to understand why Speaker Boehner would walk away from this kind of deal, and frankly, if you look at the commentary out there, there are a lot of Republicans that are puzzled as to why it couldn't get done.
And the only thing standing in the way of the House proposal over in the Senate is the President and Senator Reid.
Now, I've said from the beginning that the ultimate solution to our deficit problem must be balanced. Despite what some Republicans have argued, I believe that we have to ask the wealthiest Americans and biggest corporations to pay their fair share by giving up tax breaks and special deductions.
Well, that was Speaker John Boehner and President Obama hitting each other on the meltdown of the big debt deal a little more than a year ago. Now a new book by Bob Woodward called The Price of Politics describes displays of, quote, pure fury from President Obama and accusations from Speaker Boehner of a, quote, presidential tirade. So will its release now influence voters in November? Marjorie Clifton is a former consultant to the Obama campaign and principal of Clifton Consulting, and Tony Sayegh is a Republican political analyst, campaign consultant, and national political correspondent for Talk Radio News Service. So what's so explosive about this book, Tony?
Well, it reveals something that Republicans often talk about, which is the fact that you have a president who really doesn't know how to lead. And in this case, it's exposed that his arrogance, even among members of his own party, led to isolation, mismanagement, and an entire almost abdication of his own philosophy or strategy over the most important thing that he can do, which is to save us from this debt crisis that, in this case, resulted in an actual downgrade of our credit rating for the first time in history. So it showed Obama as an incompetent leader, which is a big message coming out from the right.
Is the book going to pin the meltdown of that debt deal on the president?
Megan, the amazing thing about this book is it's Democrats complaining. It's Larry Summers, his advisor on economics. It's Chris Van Hollen, who's been promoting Barack Obama on the stage, a congressman from Maryland here tonight. They actually said that in the 11th hour, the person they voted off the island, out of the process, was Barack Obama because he was an impediment. Even Joe Biden, his own vice president, according to the reports in this book, thought that he could do it better, do it differently. I think that's a really damning kind of commentary on the president's leadership.
Marjorie, what do you make of it? Because obviously there are a lot of folks on the right who come out with books that are not too favorable about Barack Obama, and that's to be expected given any administration. But this is Bob Woodward. He's got an impeccable reputation. He's a Pulitzer Prize winner. Does that create a problem for the president?
Well, I don't know that it's created a problem. I mean, you have to look at it. President Obama came out as one wanting to be one of compromise. And absolutely, he had criticism from his own party about, are you bulldoggish enough? Are you driving through these policies? But I think this is more indicative of what's happening in our congressional environment right now. This standoff happening between Republicans and Democrats that is frankly hurting the American people overall. I mean, you look at the debt crisis, you had Boehner and Obama trying to come to the table. You've got Mitch McConnell saying we're going to shut down any policies that help the Obama administration. This is the Senate minority leader. And Grover Norquist's tax pledge, putting a lot of Republicans who understand the economics of taxes in a bind. That there's Republicans now who can't run on this. They understand the basics, being that we have to have taxes to pay for programs, and that's just sort of a fundamental of economics.
You talk about the allegation in this book, and we haven't seen it yet, of arrogance. That they talk about how President Obama is supposedly an arrogant guy who even some in his own party have grown to dislike. They feel disappointed by that because they thought they were going to get something else. Is that unusual? I mean, do you get to the presidency without being a little arrogant? Don't you have to be a little arrogant to think that you can be president?
It's a great point, Megan. And last night you saw a president who spoke from this podium who was arrogant but very productive with Congress, even members of the opposite party, and that's Bill Clinton. Bob Woodward wrote a book in 1996 called The Choice. It cataloged the budget showdown between Republicans then and Bill Clinton. And you saw in that process real work, real camaraderie, real pragmatic approaches to fixing this problem, ending the government shutdown. Clinton and Gingrich actually in this book apparently bonded over their troubles with their wives and other things, and they smoked cigars and drank whiskey together. But this is part of the governing process. It's okay to be arrogant as long as it's not an impediment to your leading the country.
And the book apparently talks to, Jim Engel talked about this earlier, about how the president was having conference calls with Nancy Pelosi and others, and she was putting him on mute, and he was talking, she was putting the mute button on. I don't know, it's a little bit of color, it's a little window, but does it move any voters?
I mean, I can't say that it would. You have to look at Obama's likability right now is at about 50%. You've got Romney at 30%. I don't think his likability with the public, this is going to influence it.
The latest polls are actually 51-49 as of this week.
Well, moving,
Absolutely.
and we'll see how we come out of the convention. But I would say that in general, what happens behind closed doors, I mean, look at LBJ. LBJ would corner people, literally physically corner people to get things done. And I think Obama, criticism for being arrogant, I would say he's actually tries too hard to compromise, tries too hard and gets so focused on the politics, or not playing politics, but on the policy almost to a fault. I'd say he's almost an academic in that sense. So, I mean, whether that should be something we're critical of, I would say it's actually a positive.
I got to run, but in one sentence each, what did you think of Clinton last night?
Outstanding. I expected that for sure from him, but if you look at the fact checkers, I don't think he really was telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth yet
yeah,
again.
But you don't want to go into fact checking with either convention. But what I would say is the real show is going to be whether President Obama can actually outdo Michelle Obama's speech tonight. That was amazing.
She set the bar high.
Yeah.
What's happening down below us? We're just taking a look just to see. It's not Foo Fighters, but we will check in momentarily. We're hoping you're going to get some more music. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Well, Vice President Biden